Welcome to We Table It, a space where conversations are dissected to inspire change.
No matter how tough it gets, don't give up. Your story is still unfolding. Time your greatest currency. Spend it on purpose, not just potential. There's power in your peace. Joy is not found, it's created, owned, and released from within. You were never meant to do this alone. Community is strength. Unity builds legacy. Even the longest path begins with a single step. Keep walking, even if no one's clapping yet. These are the moments that matter. Build a life that feels good, not just one that looks good. Wishing changes nothing. Action changes everything. Begin now. This is We Table It, where courage, connection, and clarity converge. Join the conversation.
Hello, everybody, and good afternoon. And welcome to this day's afternoon session. Here I'm in afternoon in Kenya, and you might be somewhere else in a different time zone, but welcome and thank you for tuning in. Today we are having our bottomless chatter. And here at We Table It, what that means is we're talking about how we can dissect society and inspire change with information on the latest happenings around the world. And today I am joined by my co host, Eno. And if you'd like to say hello as we get ready to move forward, great, thank you.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today.
Thanks, Eno. And we have a very interesting topic for you this afternoon that we want to touch on. Now, if you're joining us for the first time, welcome. If you've been with us before and you're coming back, welcome back. We're very happy to have you. And remember that if you want to keep seeing our talks, you should like and subscribe to our pages across all social media platforms. We are present as We Table It. So keep an eye out for us. And if you have any questions or comments, just remember to share them in the comment section. And so as we jump into our topic today, we're going to discuss freedom. And here specifically, we're going to look at free speech. So you might be wondering, why free speech? Why now? And I think if we look at Africa as a whole from our experiences, we're beginning to see restrictions in the way people are allowed to communicate, how the media is allowed to communicate, and basically what we expected to be freedom of speech is really not as free as we thought. So I'm going to ask Eno if that's what I've observed here in Kenya. Is it something similar when you look at Nigeria?
I've been observing what's been going on in Kenya, and I must say I've been pretty much impressed by the happenings. I mean, the recent happenings, having the Gen Z, taking over the home and saying no to oppression. Uh, I am of the opinion that if we have more countries, I mean, you say more countries coming out, like Tanzania and in some other countries. I think Togo had this very recently. Yes, in Nigeria and in parts of Africa, not just in Africa, most parts of the world, we still have a situation where people are not free to air their views on politics, on administration, or anything relating to the governance. Yeah, because when they do so, they stand at risk of being picked up, and some might just disappear if care is not taken. We've heard, I mean, allegedly, we've heard all these things happen. I don't know. However, people tread with caution. They are walking on eggshells when it comes to the way they interpret information, the way they air their views online, offline, wherever it is. We are very, very careful in this part of the world. We are hoping that very soon we will get to the point where we can say things as they are, regardless of who's the sword. Yeah.
Wow, Eno, thank you for sharing that because it's interesting. We are in two different places and we're facing the same challenge where people are finding it difficult to speak their minds online. And maybe I'll ask if you have any idea of how it's being curbed. And I'll give you an example of what's happening in Kenya. So in Kenya, we have an act that's known as it should be Misuse of Computer and Cyber Crimes Act. And so what is happening is if you say something that, particularly towards a politician or politics, what happens is you get arrested as though you have broken the Cyber Crimes Act. And despite many cases going to court, a lot of them actually get dismissed because you speaking your mind is not breaking the Cyber Crimes Act. But that is the way that politics or politicians are trying to really repress people. They arrest them, have them held, and because our constitution says that you have to go to court, they go to court and they're charged with a cybercrime. Is there something similar in Nigeria when it comes to how the law is being used or attempted to be used to get people to stop talking when they're online?
All right. If I heard you correctly, talking about that we have situations where they use the law to intimidate people to keep them. Of course, they do have. There is no way you want to punish people for doing the things that you don't do without using something going legal. So to bring acts, bring out what the law stipulates, like cybercrime, sorry, cyberbullying, whatever, bring it up and say uh, you have offended. So on this note, we are giving you this punishment. So yeah, there's always something that they would hold on to unleash whatever discipline they will give to the offender. However, we've seen cases recently where they didn't go by what the law stipulated. They went by, I'm trying to pick up the name and I'll get that shot and come back. In Google, an activist came up and made statement because they are tired of the long monarchical kind of dominance and they were wanting to have protests to have them review whatever is happening and have a democratically elected president. So some was tearing up the people with his conversations, and some people in the government are not happy about it. He was held and taken to the asylum on that he is mentally stable. The family is saying, our guy is not unstable. He doesn't have any mental illness. And they're saying, no, for someone to come out and say something about the presidency or whatever in this way means that he's not normal. So even when I come up with anything that has to do with us, they will come up with something else to say he's sick. That's why, and they are treating him for his state of mind. So yeah, it's crazy. They must have something to hold on to deal with someone who has stepped on toes. Yeah.
Sorry, realized at that age where you're
Very
on mute
intense.
and you forget Yes, I've unmuted. Oh, yes, I picked up. I think we have a network challenge, but I was able to pick up a little bit of and how it's sort of being applied the law to repress people, to get people to stop commenting, especially on specific politicians who just don't want to be questioned and talked about. And I think when I look at how we get information, how we disseminate information in today's time, it's just interesting. I think for most of my life, I've never been particularly interested in politics. I think politics has always been something that's happened on the side or parallel to my day to day life. It was easy to separate political intentions from working, from, taking care of your family, taking care of your children. It was possible to actually have some space between politics and life. And what I'm starting to see, sort of when I look across the world, is that the way that politics is happening is really, really having a significant impact on day to day life. And there seems to be, in my opinion, a lot of arrogance and control that politicians are holding on to across different continents, whether it's Africa, whether it's Europe, whether it's the States. We're seeing politicians behaving in the same way, and it's affecting us. But at the same time, they don't want people to sort of complain about it. So, the point I'm looking to make is when in Kenya we had our protests last year, for a period of time on one of our heavy protest days, our primary internet provider had an issue. They said it was a technical issue, but what it did is that it slowed down communication. You could almost not go on the internet to do anything. And we felt like we were being controlled by the state. And as I've been looking at what's happening in terms of freedom of communication in different countries, I'm finding this is something that in Africa our governments try to do. They try to, in quotes, shut down the internet or switch it off when there's protests or when there's something that's happening on the ground, so people can't communicate with each other. Or, they make it go slow, or they limit access to specific social media pages. Recently, Tanzania, our neighbor, they could no longer access Twitter. So, do you have something similar in Nigeria and in Western Africa, where to control people and communication and freedom, the internet gets shut down or social media
Yeah.
pages suddenly they are off? Do you have something similar happening like that?
Oh, thank you, Valerie. Yeah, it's amazing that I actually had a thought similar to it. Today in Lagos, Nigeria, there's going to be election, or there is election going on today, and it has restricted movement and less activities as well. All right, so this is me just being, just thinking about how some people who want to sabotage the uh, conducive atmosphere of the election would really try to either put out power or whatever it is to frustrate communication or to stop from seeing the things they do in the dark, to sabotage the peaceful election process. So I was, thinking about this, and we're thinking about something similar that has to do with network providers being a tool, using them, or being used as a tool to frustrate um, communication. Protesters or citizenry, they have issues that need. It's not unique to Kenya. It's not unique to Africa. I think it's something that happens worldwide as well. We've heard of people talking about the fact that when they have issues, they can't access network. They can't communicate with people far and near. Um, it's been alleged that in North Korea as well, the government do not allow them access to uh, of the internet. Not sure that they maybe told me. Still have to research on that, so that they can have complete, you know, governance over the system. Yeah, the government, the people. This is it's a game, and it's all about who is the one wielding power. And as it is, those in power are those that can use anything to get what they want. And of course, yeah, they can use whatever resources at their disposal to command whatever they want here. So this takes me to what I mentioned, Valerie, if it's okay. I got reports from Guardian. This is almost still, but however, we'll talk about it since it's in line with the topic for today. We're talking about freedom of speech, right? So recently in June, there's been a protest in Togo. So I'm getting reports from AP News, The Guardian, and Reuters. In the late 2025, mass protests erupted in Lome against constitutional reforms that effectively allows President Faure Nasingbe to extend his rule indefinitely by assuming a powerful new role, president of the Council of Ministers. Now, what this means is that if he is the president of the Council of Ministers, it means that it's a non-elected role. He remains there indefinitely. And that means that even in his office as president, he is still the most powerful person in the country. All right, so I'm back. He wanted to assume a powerful new role, president of the Council of Ministers, without term limits, sparked by the arrest of popular rapper Amron and rising anger over economic hardship. Protesters, including many youth and students, demand the president's resignation and restoration of democratic forms. Now, if I'm not mistaken, the Amron is the person, I mean, the rapper is the person who was taken away. He was just home. They had about 50 armed. So imagine using the young people who are to defend the territory from foreign leaders, sending them to a citizens is armless, someone who can't do anything to them. About 50 officers going to pick up somebody. And the next thing we hear is he's been taken to an asylum. Why? Because expressing his discontentment, his display of the way things are being done by the ruling people. I use the word ruling because these are not leaders. Leaders are meant to rule in favor of the people. Not rule. I'd like to use the word rule. They actually lead. When we use the word rulers, it means that it's a period of autocracy. So Amron is not about that, and he sparked, a conversation online, and people reacting to it, people wanting to protest, and because he was speaking for his rights to speech. So, yeah, to some developing story. Valerie, what do you think about the development in Togo?
Oh my gosh. I was so proud and rooting for the young people of Togo. Why was I rooting for them? I saw in them and their protest a resilience. They were resilient and they wanted to really make sure they drove the point home. Watching Togo was like watching Nairobi. It was, if they showed them screen by screen, the same behavior we saw from the security forces, from the people, is what we saw. And I think the people in Togo held on a little bit longer. And they have every right to. I mean, you've got somebody who's been duly elected in a democratic environment, and who that doesn't want to leave power. And why don't these people want to leave power? What happens when you get there that in Africa you think this is it? My retirement plan, I don't understand. It's supposed to be a high pressure job. So why they want to be there forever, I don't know. But I think the people of Togo did well. We heard, and we often don't hear about what's happening around us as a continent, but we heard, we saw, we were willing and able to share what it is that they were going through. So they were definitely making an impact. Now, what I don't know is what has happened following their protest, whether they were able to make any headway or whether they're planning to go back and protest again. I'm not sure, but we can see that there is dissatisfaction and that they're trying to do something about it. And in line with even what we're talking about today, I don't know whether they, from that, they ended up with some of their freedoms for expression and communication being curtailed as well. It would be good for us to find out.
Sorry.
I was saying, I don't know whether in Togo, following their protests, they also had people who were being arrested, detained, or stopped from communication in terms of having that freedom curtailed. So it would be something we would need to look and find out. Is did
All
that
right.
happen in
So far,
Togo?
what
Mm,
I gathered, it's just someone that been picked up. He was picked up because he was accused of inciting violence. So it was actually a speech to people from coming out on the street, and he came out. He's been detained in the asylum. People saw him telling people to deter from going for the protest, and that irked the protesters even more, saying this is not a guy that he was something allegedly, and then because that everybody was on the streets over something that is valid, and how can somebody be in power? In fact, it's his father was in power from I think 1967 to 2005, and the president himself, the head of the ruling list or whatever council, started in 2005 until 25. It's held on to power in a place, and they think it's not okay for people to come out and speak about this. Yeah. People have been killed because of this protest. There's been excessive use of force to stop them from protest. I think about 7 lives and a lot of people were picked up. Yeah.
mm, yes. Oh my goodness. This is it's interesting this time we're living in, where we've gotten used to. I think also when I think about freedom and what we're used to, and I think about the internet. The internet is something that we are learning and experiencing every day. And for me, African governments lag behind when it comes to their understanding of the internet, as well as the freedom that comes with being able to express yourself. And so they, having lived and grown up in systems where if the government says stop talking, people stop talking, this is a new space to be in because the government will say stop talking and people will say, I'm going to talk because they told me not to talk, and here I am on social media, and world, come and look at this. So I think even when it comes to understanding the dynamics of the internet and what freedom looks like there, African governments need to catch up and figure out how is it that we can manage people, allow them to have rights, allow them communication, and let them be. um just one thing before I let you jump in, Eno. when I look at, let's say, the states and what I perceive is communication and how they've managed to control freedom there, I've seen a lot of censorship. So rather than telling people, don't talk about this or you will be arrested, when you talk about something that is not permitted on a social media platform, it just doesn't show up. It's censored. So they control narratives. There are certain words, if you use them, end of your video, it's taken down. Like on YouTube, you'll notice when you're watching something, people have little initials and things that they say, because if you say the word, that is it, your YouTube will take down your video. So they've been able to influence behavior. So, with that as an example, and looking at what's happening in Africa, what do you think our leaders can learn and possibly implement for managing Africans and young people from Africa on social media?
Yeah, Valerie, the same thing happens even on Facebook, not just videos, on posts as well. There are things you say and your content will be flagged, so people have a way to go around it. What they do is that they change the characters of the words. Instead of using an I, they probably use exclamation mark that, so that they can go past, you the whatever is the checkers. This is a thing, and I think that more needs to be done to allow people express themselves freely. It's not a problem, like I said, it's unique to Nigeria alone, or Kenya. I think it's a worldwide thing. Even before the advent of social media, I mean, coming online and sharing content, and when we had the traditional broadcast on TV, you see these TV stations, they were restricted as well. They had to know the kind of things that they air, because when you air the wrong thing that is not in favor of the government that is in power, of course you'll be sanctioned. Your license will be revoked or something. So they are careful, and they end up not giving us, I mean, quality information being changed, because it's not just social media. It's been on from long ago, before there was a thing called social media. Yeah, it's been a tool they use. They would frustrate the enterprise when anyone is trying to give us information, because they do not want us to come up and protest against their ill doings. Yeah.
Oh, yes. Thank you, Eno. Thank you. Thank you. Um, there's something that I'd like to touch on when it comes to freedoms and what we can expect. And this is on what are our human rights in Africa. And it's through working with different people and organizations in the rights space that I become very aware that I was not clear, or I'm not even now fully clear on what are my rights. When we watch American TV and somebody's getting arrested and it's all chaotic, they stand and they say, I know my rights. You can't do this and you can't do that. And then here we are in Africa, being oppressed for talking and having our freedom curtailed for communicating. And I'm not sure whether we can genuinely stand up and say, I know my rights. What are the rights that I have when it comes to speaking, when it comes to communicating? Where are these rights written? How do they get upheld? And it was through some work I was doing over the past week that I found out there's an entire document that our countries have agreed to called the African Charter on Human Rights, or is it Human and People's Rights? And it talks about what are our rights as African people. And so I need to read it in detail because I think I only read the part that was relevant for what I was doing at the time. But what's interesting is these documents and policies exist, but when we are on the ground as people, we don't know about them. And I look and see, when we're thinking of our freedoms, why don't we know about these documents? Like, really, so that we can live through them. Why aren't we taught in school that this is what human rights looks like? I've not been in school for a while, yes, as I have matured in my existence. But when I was in school, I can't remember being taught about these are what human and people's rights looks like. These are what women's rights look like. And I know if you have experience and understanding of human rights documents that can tell you what are your freedoms and what are your rights, whether you have any understanding of them. Mhm. Eno, are you able to hear me? All right. I think Eno, you might be frozen. So if you can hear me, you can just put a comment in the chat or let me know. But what I will say for you guys who are watching us and with us, thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. And I just want to touch a little bit on this rights, because I think it's something that's important and that we need to be aware of. And so I would ask everybody who has access to the internet to Google the African Charter on Human and People's Rights. It's also called the Banjul Charter. And what it does is it has a series of different articles that talk about what are human and people's rights here in Africa. Now, it's important to make sure that the African country that you are from has signed the convention, because it's got African states members. So there's some countries that agree to abide to the African Charter on Humans and People's Rights. And there's some countries that do not. So it's important to check and see where your country falls, whether it's a country um, that you're able to use this document to affirm what your rights are or not. And then once you've done that, you can download these rights documents as PDFs. They're not long, but they are essential to understand. So I'd invite you to go and read, what does this rights document say? How do these rights apply to me? And what is it that I can stand up and say, I know my rights, as confidently as somebody who is acting in a movie, who is living each day with their power as a citizen of a country. You need to know your rights, because it is from understanding and knowing your rights that you will be able to better fight for your freedoms. So I'd encourage all of you to have a look at the Banjul charter, sorry. And I will ask if you know of any additional documents that talk about rights in Africa, in your country. Please share with us in the comments, where you will see this, which will be on YouTube, on Twitter, on Facebook. When you see this video, share with us in the comments, what are those rights documents that you know about, and which of the rights do you know, like, really, really well? For example, having the right to live, because we know just from the Bible that we have a right to live. We're not supposed to kill each other. But talking about your right to live, your right to free speech, your right to movement, where there are very many things that we have an entitlement to, that we can talk about and make sure that we know what they are. And if somebody violates them, how do we actually go and get that solved? So please, yeah, look out for those documents, share them, get as much information as you can, and share with us in the comments, whether what you've come across and what you have found. And so I'll just touch a little bit on what we've talked about today. I'll say a quick excuse for Eno, who is having some challenges with her network. I hope she'll be able to jump in. But today we were talking about free speech. And as we've been talking about this, we've touched a little bit on what's happening in Africa when it comes to protests and how states are handling protests. And specifically, we've touched on what's happened in the western side of Africa in Togo, and here in the east side of Africa in Kenya, where we had protests. And a quick search has shown me that the same challenges that we're having, where people who speak out get arrested for speaking out and their freedom is thus curtailed, is happening in both scenarios. So it's not something that is unique to one country or new to one country. It's just something that is tragically happening in different parts of our beautiful continent. And we need to look at the leaders that we choose and ask, why is it that they want to curtail freedoms? And how is it that things can be done differently? And especially, why is it that there is, I think, a mismatch of understanding of freedom and technology and what that freedom on, technical and online spaces looks like? So it's something that we need to, as people from Africa, we can look at and see, how is it that this is happening on our watch, and what is it that we can do to make a difference? Because everybody can do one thing that can make a difference to what's happening around the world. Yes, so what are your thoughts when it comes to freedom of speech, freedom of expression? Do you feel free enough to be able to speak your mind? Or are you concerned that if you do, there is a punishment that awaits you that would make you unsafe, uncomfortable? You know, you, there's so many things that could happen. Here in Kenya, we are worried about abductions, where you get abducted by, I'll say, unknown parties, because everybody tries to say it's not them, though we have an idea who it could be. So you get abducted and assaulted, and by the time you're coming out of it, you're traumatized, and basically for just saying something online. So, do you have the same challenges in your country, and how would you approach them? So, please share with us what your experience of free speech and freedom to speak is like. Are you scared to speak? Are you not scared to speak? Do you just say, whatever happens, happens? Let me just do my thing and share what I need to share, and let us know where it is that you stand. And yeah, we'd like to also continue to talk about control of technology and whether it's something that is effective in calming people down during protests, during challenging times. Does it make a difference when governments are able to control technology? Such as denial of access to certain special social media platforms, denial of access to the internet as a whole, where we say the internet has been shut down for a period of time. Just what is it that um, can be done, or how can we approach these technological challenges when they pop up? So yes, that was our talk today. I see Eno has sort of, I'm seeing she's trying to come back in. And Eno, if you're able to come back onto the stage, that would be great. I know that today is one of those days where the network stability has not been at its peak. So it happens, and we're able to, keep things moving as we wait for stability. Yes, I know. I see you've been able to come back in. Yeah, I was just reiterating what we've talked about today. But you can go ahead and add on. Oh, you're on mute. You're muted.
All right. My apology. I had to quickly switch device. It's been a struggle, and just like what we are experiencing. Thank you everyone for joining. Thank you, Valerie, for holding the fort while I was off. Yeah. So I would love to read comments if we have any comments. I'll be sharing the comments on the screen. So yeah, we are looking forward to read comments relating to this topic on freedom of speech here in Africa. Yeah, it's been a challenge, and we are hoping that more and more people would get to understand. I like the area where you said something about if it's spelt out somewhere. I think you found some documents recently that's relating to how much freedom we have and what are the things to say and things not to say. What are the laws governing freedom of speech? Yeah. This is where I would say that the orientation agency or body in our countries are not doing enough to sensitize the people on what is expected and what are the things that they are not to do. While you were speaking, Valerie, I was thinking about it, that where is it written expressly that this is the extent to which we can go when it comes to expressing what we feel or how we feel about any of these issues? Yeah, so not just on this topic, on so many other topics, what are the National Orientation Agency doing to get people informed on topics relating to, freedom of speech? This is the topic for today, or whatever it is. So we are left with very limited information on anything, and then when we act, it's like we have offended. I'm curious, and I really want to know, what are your findings in Kenya? Did you see anything expressly that about freedom of speech and what you guys are um, permitted to say or what you guys are restricted? Yeah, I need to understand. Did you see anything? I think I will have to do some research. Nigerians on this broadcast, I see Blessing Adenike Oladayo. Have you seen anywhere where it's been written expressly that you guys should not say this or you guys should say this? I'm quite interested. I need to see and know where it's written. Maybe after this broadcast, I will go do a research to find out if we are being informed and why we are not private or why do not have access to this information. I will check and I will get back on this. So if you have any information, if you're watching right now, please, it's okay to say it from anywhere in the world. If you're watching me, please leave a comment even after this broadcast. We want to learn what your country is doing to inform people of their rights to freedom of speech, freedom of expression. We need to know. Over to you, Valerie.
It's an interesting question. We are discovering through people being arrested. So what
Yeah,
happens is, and it's funny, but it's not funny. What
yeah,
happens is you will say something online, and then you get arrested as a
mm,
cybercrime. And for the
yeah,
most part, most people, in my opinion, it's like the way you and I are having a conversation now. And maybe I say something like, I feel like there's corruption, you know, and then I get
mm,
arrested for as a cybercrime for saying that. So there's nowhere that it's spelled out what you can and cannot
yeah,
say, but then you just find people being arrested for speaking. And what is making it even I think even more frustrating is trying to understand, what did you actually say wrong? Why are you being arrested? And we now have to keep, literally, we are always online. People keep an eye out for each other. So when you hear someone's been arrested, now we all have to band together, um, create some visibility and awareness of it. Our law society picks it up and normally will send an advocate to represent the person when as they go to court. And the cases keep being thrown out, but people keep getting arrested for just speaking. But right now, no parameters on what's good and what's bad. It depends on who's
yeah,
arresting you. And yeah, very, very vague.
yeah, very vague. Yeah, so I'm thinking
Mm.
that it should be spelt out and it should be open to be contested. The length, I mean, the extent to which one can have freedom of speech. Yeah, there should be laws governing this, and people should have the right to say we are contesting this aspect of what you guys have put down. It should be open for conversations, and then finally, this information should be made readily available. I mean, accessible to everybody. So it's not that you
Mm,
just say something without knowing that you are stepping on toes. You get it? So yeah, I think this is very vital because a lot of us we do things we do not even mean any harm. We think it's our right to say these things and it could be counted against us as we've done something against the law. So yes, it is important that these things be spelled out and be accessible. Yeah.
yes. Mm. And so I know something I'd like to ask about is maybe now looking at the fun viral part of freedom of speech, where you want to say something but you might not be bold enough to say it in case somebody is watching, and that is digital activism through hashtags. Because
Yeah.
I think we've also seen a scenario where when somebody um, wants to, join a movement to talk about something, anything, they just do hashtag. Like, for example, I think in Nigeria there was End SARS, that was a big hashtag. So
Yeah.
people put in hashtag whatever it is, and they join this freedom of communication and speech. What are your thoughts on that in terms of how people are interacting and communicating?
All right. So when it comes to how people are interacting and communicating on the digital space, I think we still need to do much more
Yes,
sensitization in
using
this regard.
hashtags. Mm,
Yeah, more sensitization because it seems it's only the Gen Z and below generation that understand how these things work. If we want to have a full, expression, uh, I mean, engaging protests like what we had in NSAS, if we want everybody to be involved in it, of course they need to understand how to use these tools. So it's only very few, people, set of people that understand how to use and the power of hashtag. Many people don't understand how powerful hashtag is. So yes, people use this to communicate, but still not much people. It's just those who are tech savvy, like the generations, there's Gen Z, millennials. When I say the millennials, we have them, yeah, that understand how to use it. But what they call this generation after Gen Z, we have which one coming up now? You understand these things, Valerie?
Gen
This
Alpha.
generation after Gen
Gen
Alpha,
Alpha.
yeah, these are the ones
I
that
have
when they
one.
when they are online, they seem invincible. They seem like nobody can do anything to them. Yeah. So these people understand how to navigate this web space better than those millennials and those before the millennials. So if we're talking about digital activism, just this few set of people, if you want it to be all encompassing and having everybody engaged, of course, we need to do more sensitization, teach people how to use digital tools and the best way to use it ethically. So there is no problem. Yeah, this is what we're talking about. Um, when all these things are spelled out, people will know how to engage without having issues. Yeah.
Sorry, I'm not catching what you're saying. I think it might be on my end. Let me see if that helps. The network is breaking up a little bit. So I've just
Okay.
gone off camera for a moment to see if it helps.
All right. I can hear you clearly, Valerie. I think it may be from my end as well.
Okay, yeah.
However, yeah, I can hear you loud and clear.
Oh, okay. So yes, sorry. I think yeah, my I don't know whether it's bandwidth that's low, but I'm here and I can speak. Yes, I mean, there's something you said, Eno, that I'm like, oh my goodness, that is gold. This Gen Alpha, genuinely, they do seem invincible online. We don't know exactly where they are. but they are there. And I was thinking about my son, who, in his all his innocence, when he wants to watch, because on YouTube there are all sorts of videos that he'll come across, and he knows mommy is tracking me. So every time he's there, I'm checking, blocking channels, really trying my best. I discovered he knows how to put on incognito mode so that I don't even see what he's watching. And he's 10 years old. And I'm like, nobody had to tell him or explain to him. He figured this out on his own and moved on with life. And so when you say yes, online they seem invincible, it's something critical that they need to think about, because as we are focusing on Gen Z who are in their 20s and the like, there's this group of younger people who have been born into tech fully. They only know how to communicate online, and they are learning how to hide themselves online. So it's, yeah, something we need to think about. How do you then make sure that even the communication they're getting, parents, we worry about them being, predators going and looking for your children and influencing them. But aside from predators, there's propaganda, there's life, these things. So yeah, and where we don't know where they are online, or at least I've never thought about where they are. So it's something that you've got me thinking about it.
Yeah. So, Valerie, when I said invincible, I think you misunderstood me. However, when you went on and
Mm,
on, I began to see another aspect of it. I began to see it on another light. When I said
mm.
invincible, I just mean they feel very indestructible. Permit me to use the word indestructible. Like,
Ah,
yeah,
okay.
nobody can touch them. However, you talking about them being invisible is actually a thing. They understand, it still buttresses my point that they understand how to navigate the system
Mm,
better than the generations before them. You get it? They know how to do
yeah.
whatever they want to do without being caught. Except it, when somebody is really out for them, someone who understands cybersecurity and is out to get someone who is misbehaving online. Yeah. But other than that, they could do their thing and they get away with it. They know the laws of the digital space when it comes to, hiding themselves and going incognito. But you see the generation ahead of them, no, they don't know how to do these things. So they are not as courageous as this generation we are. I mean, the one in perspective, I mean, the Gen Zs and the one that's coming after them now. So, yes, all still boils down to information. How much
Mm,
information do these ones have? Or does everyone, not just this generation, the ones that are still engaging? Because we still have those of the generation before me, my father's generation, my mother's generation, wanting to engage online. You know, how much information do
mm-hmm,
they have? How did they know what to say and what not to say online? So, yeah, we need to have this information out. And we need to be able to contest some of these laws that are put on the table to say, this is not fair. This is our right. Why is this law being passed? And how can it be adjusted? Whatever it is. So that when we engage, when we call ourselves activists, we're able to engage fairly. And, we'll have the
mm.
law backing us.
Yes. Yes. Oh man, there's so much to think about. We've been there's a whole generation coming,
Yeah,
and what we're walking into. Yes.
definitely. Let's see what.
Mm,
So I was going to read quickly. Continue
okay.
what I was talking about in Togo. Um, Security forces cracked down with tear gas. After the protesters demanded the president's resignation and restoration of democratic norms. So, security forces cracked down with tear gas, batons, and alleged arbitrary arrests. Over 60 people were detained, and reports indicate at least 7 deaths in June from clashes and drownings in the Bear Lagoon and Akudesawa Lake. I beg your pardon, one such casualty was 15-year-old Jacques Kwame Kautoglo, whose death galvanized public calls for an independent investigation into state violence. Amnesty International and ECOWAS have condemned the excessive use of force, monitored torture and arbitrary detention, and urged restraint and dialogue from all parties. Meanwhile, internet restriction and suspension of foreign media, RFI, France 24, have deepened fear of censorship and suppression of dissent. Although the streets have quietened, tension remains high. The movement reflects broader frustration with a decades-long political dynasty, economic hardship, and shrinking. Protesters are planning more demonstrations in mid-July, signaling that the struggle for democracy in Togo is far from over. So now this goes to what we are saying about censorship, stopping the people's access to information just to control the narrative. Yeah, Valerie, your thoughts.
Oh my goodness, yes. When I'm hearing about what's happening there, I'm like, yes, it's really, we can see efforts to control narratives, to get people to think a certain way, and not to clearly and honestly report and share what is happening. One of the things when you mentioned that this removal of the foreign press is part of that, because then you're able to, with the local press, you know, their businesses are in the hands of the country,
Yeah,
so
yeah, yeah.
they are more likely to be compliant to what is needed. But yes, it's heavy censorship, it's heavy curtailing of freedom, and it's so nobody else understands the experience. Because the thing is, when people start understanding this, they object and say it cannot be like this.
Mm.
But in this case, they are really trying to control that.
Yeah.
Yes, especially as you mentioned, they are planning on going back and protesting this very month.
Wow. Interesting. I would like to follow up with that story. I want to see how far they're going. Um,
Mm.
from this end, because of the change of device, I'm not able to see comments. However, I want to thank everybody for joining and for your engagement, your comments, your likes, your shares. It means a lot, and we appreciate you. Valerie, I think you have any final words before we round up?
No, just thanking everybody for jumping in and urging anyone again, if there's a rights document or rights policy that you know of that will educate us on our human rights, please share it in the comments and would be happy to discuss, go through it. Yes. So yes,
All right.
that's my take on today. Yes.
Okay, so if there's something else you want us to talk about, it's okay to leave it in the comments. We'll be glad to jump into that conversation. We're looking forward to having more juicy conversations on We Table It. Once again, thank you for joining us today, and we look forward to having you on the next Bottomless next week, Saturday. From me, it's a bye, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Okay. Bye, everyone.
Bye.